How to say jQuery? What?
On that like jQuery videos you got us watching on Code School.
Yeah.
A little intro video that they start each lesson. They're bad.
All right, so we're going to continue on today and talk more about the jQuery interface, and we've talked a lot about selectors and all that kind of good stuff. And we played around with adding buttons or events. These are event handlers that we added to a div, and it looks like a button, but it's not. It's chiffon. It's a div that's styled like a button, and it has an event handler on it. So that lets you do all kinds of fun stuff. For instance, we added yesterday, I think we added maybe I did this after class. I added a double click function to all of the H2s. And so every H2 has this handler on it, and I told it for every one of these, hide its parent. Okay, so take care of it, wipe out its parent. But it might be a little better if I changed my H2s instead of double-clicking hide them, because then I can't get them back easily. I've taken them out of the range of the user being able to see them. Instead of hiding the parent, I might want to hide just the paragraphs underneath the heading and leave the heading alone. So let's look at what is this stuff. So let's inspect that element. And we see we've got an H2 here, and it's got some siblings of a bunch of paragraphs. Right? So what I want to target, how would I target all of these paragraphs that are underneath a heading like this, underneath an H2? Actually, I don't know. I don't ever do a sibling selector, so there might be. Siblings of next elements. Okay, so those are siblings, so we'll try this. I was going to show a different way. But siblings, and then we tell it what type of siblings we want to select. So it's a sibling of the H2, so we want to select, and let's do it inside of here in the console. I want to select an H2 element. Yeesh. Can I get this a little bigger? I want to select the H2 and then all of its sibling paragraphs. That's what I said. Right? So that gives me all of these H2s. When I hover over them, you'll see all of the H2s that are on there. So here's another one. Pretty cool, huh? Children. So we'll do siblings. This will work. So instead of the parent, I want to look at this. What does this refer to again? The H2, what I'm looking at. And I want to say, look at all of my siblings that are a P tag. I only want the P tag siblings. And I want to loop through each of those, and I want to hide them. All right? So that is all going to happen on what event? Double click on a H2. So I double click on this. Bada boom. It shrunk all of that, but left my heading here. So I can still double click on it. Doesn't do me anything right now, but I can double click and hide all of these headings. Isn't that cool?
You change hide to toggle.
Yes. See that? You're way ahead of me. I even wrote toggle already. So instead of just hiding, it would be nice if I double-clicked again. I want to show it. Okay? So instead of hide, I can use the method called toggle. All right? We'll reload this guy. And now when I double-click on a heading, it will hide. I double-click on it again, and it shows it back again. Isn't that just sweet stuff? So a lot of widgets and things are created using this type of technique. Right? And that event handler is on every H2 that I have on my page. All right, everybody understand that? I took my H2, that's my H2, and all of its siblings, that my brothers and sisters. That means they're on the same level in the DOM, and we saw that here. The H2 they're on the same level, so they're siblings, right? They're not children. And I added a function, and what do we call this type of function that has no name? Anonymous function, to, when this double click happens, execute this code. And that code says, look for my siblings that are paragraphs and loop through them one at a time, calling another anonymous function against every one of the elements that this piece returns. So this returns what type of data? An array of peas, right? An array of green vegetables. It's an array of paragraphs that are siblings of the H2 tag. So this each lets me loop through. That's like a while statement or a each in Ruby. We're going to loop through every element in the array. And for every element, I'm going to call this function, which does just one line. And I can do all kinds of stuff inside that function. So the other way to do this is to, instead of the siblings, I want to look at the parent again. And the parent gives me what? If I'm here in my heading, that gives me this div, right? That's the div. And then I want to say, I want all the children of this div that are paragraphs. So that's another way to do it. Just it's more time-consuming than just the siblings. But I want to look at children. It's another method. All the P's, all of the P tags that are children of the parent of my H2. Does that make sense?
The more chaining that you do, does that increase the time?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Siblings would be faster, sure. All right, so this works the same way, and it's going to hide, double click, it hides all of the P tags underneath the heading tag. So it works the same way. I just show you different ways of doing that. It depends on what your structure looks like as to how you traverse this.
Use double click because that's not really a common thing for web applications to be doing. I mean, I don't think I've
Yeah. All of the Google apps use that double click and stuff, yeah. So they use that a lot.
actually thought of just double click on something.
Yeah.
Because web and double click don't usually.
Let me show you an example of using this. Let me show you a site, a theme that I like, that I've used. It's called Adminity, if I can find it. Here it is. This is a theme that's responsive that I used to create for one of my clients. And it's got some nice responsive media queries that happen. When I get down to a certain level, it changes my menu to be on the top instead of the side. See that? That's one difference. But then for what I was talking about, these are all these little widgets that open and close, and it's perfect for an administrative panel like this. They're not using the double click, they're just using a single click. But I can open, expand, and all they're doing is calling the toggle on this particular element. So that's a real life use of this. It's just really cool. Huh?
They're not calling the toggle on that.
Maybe not.
Something else.
Maybe not. Might be their own stuff.
They're calling the slide toggle.
Slide, okay, fine.
It is still a toggle, but it's a slide toggle.
That's just more animated than this, yeah. All right, so that's just a real life example of that. We could do that. I lost my page. Yeah, we could change it to slide toggle just for you guys. That's fun.
Yay, we're special.
Capital T.
I know.
Guys.
So it just does an animation of a slide, right?
That's actually quite cool.
It's kind of nice. All right.
Actually, the slide toggle collapses the div as well. Your hide leaves it there.
No, it collapsed. It did.
I noticed when you were doing it before that it wasn't collapsing.
It was collapsing.
Is that because the other ones were holding?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I wasn't sure. I didn't.
All right. So that just gives us some more information. Children, sibling does the same thing. And there's tons of things we can do with these selectors and these anonymous functions. So a lot of them are these animation issues that are fun to add. So let's, oh no, I wanted to add do the insertion first. So we're going to change some of this stuff, and we might even build a shopping cart on the page using jQuery by adding HTML to an existing div. All right, so let's try to do that. Let's add a div in here somewhere. Yeah, let's do it way at the bottom here. Actually, I'll do it at the top just because it's not going to look good, but too bad. So I'm going to have a div that is going to have an ID so I can target it easily again. And we'll call it cart. Sounds good. Isn't that great? And it doesn't have any HTML in it right now. It's going to have nothing in it. Well, let's put an H2 so we can see it's a cart, right? Shopping cart. And then we will put a bunch of P tags in here that will have the HTML for each element that we might add to our shopping cart. All right, everybody with me on that? So if I reload my page, this is going to be way at the top. And notice that it also has the double click. See the slide almost try to work? But the P tag doesn't have anything in it, so it doesn't change. But this, because I targeted all H2s on my page, this also has the anonymous double-click function, event handler for it. Everybody see why that happens? Okay. So let's add a, let's make this add information, this link. I want to add information to my shopping cart, okay? So let's take that link, which is one of these, and I'm going to give it an ID again just because I want to target it directly, and we'll call it product 1. And we'll change this so it says product 1. And I want to target this ID and do something when this link is clicked. All right? So how do I do that? JavaScript. So I need to target the ID. No, I want to do something when it happens, right? Product 1. When that gets clicked, I want to do some anonymous function again. And I want to do something when that happens, okay? So when that happens, I want to target my shopping cart now inside of this function. So I'm going to target my cart with an ID of cart. And there are different ways of changing that. I want to say, I could just say, change the HTML to have a p tag with a new product in it. Okay, so let's see what happens when that happens. All right, so let's reload it. And I click my product, and it replaced my shopping cart, all of the HTML that was there, with the value that I had inside the string. So what was the problem with that? It's not appending. What I did was I took that whole div and replaced it. So if we look at this in the element, I have the div and all of the contents of that div, the HTML of this cart, got replaced with that string. So let's reload it again, see what was there. My cart had an H2 in it and a p tag. And when I replace it, when I click here, it replaced the entire HTML data with new data. Okay, so that's not the right one to use. But it's an example of a way of replacing data dynamically on the page by targeting something and replacing the HTML. Isn't that cool? Dynamically change the structure of my page with jQuery. So there are other ways of doing this. And let's go look at the, see if we can find them in here. I know, isn't that great? So I want to append something to the DOM. So I found it under this. Now I lost it again. Manipulation, here we go. Manipulation. I want to manipulate the document, and I want to add something. This is document replacement. That's the HTML. I want to do an insertion, right? So I want to append content to the end of an element that matches. So I need to select the element in there and append to that. All right? HTML was the one we just used. So the append is what I want. And this gives you an example of how they use it, right? I'm going to append some string of HTML to some specific class element that I have here. So instead of HTML, I want to append this to just call append. All right, let's see what happens with just append.
But you have to do those parentheses after the append?
No, that is what's in
I did. That's the parentheses for here.
the function.
Okay.
You pass that as a variable of the function.
Okay.
Right.
Never mind.
That's a string getting past the append function that's targeting my cart. So right now we have my cart, and it has just a paragraph tag in it. If I click my product now, it appended a new product to that. Isn't that sweet? So it all still has my blank paragraph tag in it. I could take that out if I want. If I do it again, what's going to happen? Right? It's going to keep adding new products to my shopping cart. Isn't that cool?
Would have been nice to know that, Ross.
Isn't that nice? Well, you got to learn pieces at a time. Sure. But this is, that lets me add structure to my existing page dynamically. All right? All kinds of stuff you can do with that. And to make this even nicer, we can add some animation to this. I can say, instead of just adding it willy-nilly, I want to fade in and take a second to do it. All right? Fade in. That better be right. They keep changing these things. Let's go look. Yeah, fade in. Okay. Fade in. And I want to take it a second to do that. These are in milliseconds, so 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. Yeah. Right. So I'll reload it. My shopping cart is empty.
Does not appear.
It's not working.
That's not fading in.
It's not. Why?
When you fade it, if they can actually do it off the net like that.
Yeah, it might not work like that. Pause.
But it works.
All right, let's try that. So,
That's almost all programming. Fair enough.
so we're gonna add it, hide it, and then fade it in. There we go.
Fade every time new.
Right? That's not right.
It's
I'm
close.
fading my entire shopping cart, so that's not right.
Sir,
Because it's fading this. This was the element that I have. So, right? So we won't do that. We'll play with fade on something else. When we get to the Jquery UI, they have some nicer stuff too for that. All right, so I can just add it. It's a little nicer. I can add a new product. I could make another link, add a different product, right? So instead of product, I could say this is product 1, and I could have another method that works for my product 2 ID that attaches product 2. Not very dry, no. And I'd put an ID here.
Is that typical JavaScript? Does it not be dry? Or
No, definitely not.
jQuery, actually, part of jQuery's thing is to make JavaScript more dry.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that, you know.
All right, so I add product 1, it shows product 1. Add product 2, it shows product 2. So, right, there's a little more complicated to get more dry, and we'll get to that later with some attributes and stuff. But so, isn't that cool? I added an anonymous function to my link that caused HTML to be appended to my shopping cart. And then I might have a form in here that says buy or something like that. I could even have forms in here that have the quantities, and you can change that all. And this would probably be all tied back into your back-end site using Ajax, things like that. But that's a front-end version of a shopping cart, right? Sure, you have to have something that you can see. Well, you got to have some visible part of it, though. That's the visible part of it. We haven't tied it to a database or a shopping cart in the back end. Yeah, we could create, instead of a P, I could create this as a form element, things like that. Sure. I can do all kinds of stuff. Instead of a P, make this an input tag.
I actually ship my wireless off the screen with my cell phone like 20% in an hour. Because it's constantly trying to reconnect to the Wi-Fi, and it's just killing my phone.
I can't even get this thing to load one website consistently. Yeah. On the plus side, we have some grass seals.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. It'll be grown right about the time I'm gone.
Because there's a city portion here, they have to double switch.
All right, let's see. Yeah, I got a problem. Oh, I got my double quotes in here. Ah. So make these single quotes inside. All right, this is product 2.
Get out of work in Detroit.
And so now I've got it as a form tag.
Vegas wasn't helpful.
Quiet. And let's put a break tag at the end of this so it looks right. Right? I want to have a break tag. And so now my shopping cart is a form that I could change.
That's just weird.
Isn't that cool? So I can do, the point is that I can do anything I want and adding HTML, and it adds it to the DOM, and the browser then knows about it, and I could even add a submit button here, and when I hit submit, it's going to buy my stuff for me. So I'm dynamically adding elements to my form one at a time. Right? That gets a little more complicated when you actually plug that in the back end. Any questions on what we've done with these anonymous functions? All right. So I want to talk a little bit then. There's a lot more in jQuery that you can do. We can look at keyboard events and see what gets pressed. Let's just do that real fast. I want to show you. For the body, I want to capture all of the keyboard events. All right, so let's see what the keyboard events have for us. We want a key down event. So when somebody presses a key down, I want to do something. We're going to have an anonymous function again. And I want to do a console.log of whatever that key press is. All right, so let's go look at and see what it gives us. What? No, we need to know what the event is, all right? The event that gives us that. So in our anonymous function, we're going to have to pass in the event that the browser gives us. This is an object that has all kinds of information associated with it. So I'm going to pass in the event into my anonymous object. And then I'm going to say event.which, right, which gives me the value of the key that was pressed. All right, so let's see if we run this now. What did you do to the computer?
Pulled this flash drive out and it went like that.
Wow, cool. So I'm on the body. I clicked on the body here somewhere, and every time I press a key, my console will print out the key value. So if I press an A, what is an A? 65, right? That's a capital A. All right? A space is a 32. And interesting, it doesn't keep doing it. That's trying to consolidate logging keys. So if I press the A a bunch of times, it's just saying it's been pressed 63 times. That's a Chrome logger thing. Isn't that cool? So this prints out the ASCII value, the number of the character that I pressed. So I can use that to check, only print out if the value is, I can do some checking like tabs and things like this. If the event.which equals 9, which is a tab, I can print out you pressed a tab. Let's see if that works. There's some interesting things with that. So there we go. I pressed a tab. Isn't that sweet? So you can intercept the key commands, which is what the Google Apps does. They're intercepting the commands. The browser takes the key command, sends it to the application through JavaScript, and in our case, jQuery, and we can capture those and do something when they hit tab. So I've used that to make the tab work between cells on a table, for instance. Force a tab to go to the next input that I want. Things like that. Pretty useful. All right, so all kinds of things we can do with jQuery, all types of events that we can attach to. So let's, I just want to talk a little bit now about the jQuery UI, which is another, if we go to jQueryUI.com, this is a set of widgets and look and feel things that I can add to my page really nicely, very easily. So I can do dragging and dropping. I can add these widgets that they call an accordion widget, buttons, date pickers, dialogues, progress bars, all kinds of things that I can add. And, well, go look. It's this thing on the side of the number here. So it's either on or off is what they're toggling the widget on. All kinds of effects, color animation. I can remove classes, toggle these. A lot of these are built on top of the jQuery libraries. And position, which is really useful. You could build your little magazine layout a lot easier with that. So a lot of these start to conflict a little bit with the Twitter Bootstrap stuff. The Twitter Bootstrap already has its own classes that define buttons and things like that. But so do, where is it? Not the button, but they have the spinner. They have, where was it? There's the button. Here's a button class that comes from jQuery UI, not from a CSS class in the Twitter Bootstrap. So you need to think about which one you're using. They can be very different. But there's a bunch of these really cool things like an accordion, which does this sliding of stuff really nicely. This would be really good for a mobile site. And I've used this in a website too before. This is just really cool. We have menus that take care of drop-downs for us, just like Twitter Bootstrap has classes that are associated with this. But this is done with a jQuery plugin, and it shows you, if you look at the source, how to include that and how to do something with that. That they have ULs inside of ULs to get the drop-down effect happen, like that. They have date pickers that when you click on it, it drops down and shows you a calendar that you wouldn't have to write yourself. Wouldn't that be great? No calendar. Dialog boxes that you've seen on websites. These are fake dialog boxes. They're not coming from the browser or the operating system. They're coming straight from inside of HTML and CSS. And you can close those. Let's see, progress bars. Again, the Twitter Bootstrap has something similar to this, but this can be tied to a function that you can keep calling and make this number go across. Bootstrap is more colorful. But we have a slider, which is a way of setting some partial value. You can use this on colors or things that you don't need a precise thing. I want it about here. Percentages, things like that work really well. And those call a function when they let up on it that you can then save the value and do something with. Save it, change your application. Tabs, these are also really cool. These display different pieces of your website inside of this div. And what they really are, if you look at the source, is just a bunch of divs stacked on top of each other. So I've got a div and a div and a div. Those are my 3 tabs. And these are displayed on or not, depending on how this clicking on the top.
So you can't use that for your 6-page navigation?
No. Not this time. But next time you're going to use these widgets. You're going to have to use these. So tooltip, this one lets you draw little boxes that pop up when you hover over things. Boy, we used to have to do this in JavaScript, and it's a real pain to figure out where to put this thing based on where your page is. Because if your page is really short, it has to calculate. I don't have a way of doing that. Let's see. it tries to put it. Let's put it at the bottom. I can't. Yes, I can. So it doesn't do that. It puts it over the frame. That's funny. In the old days, we used to have to determine where we were from the side and put it on the right or the top or the left. It would switch. Anyway. Autocomplete is cool. You've seen these in ASP where they pull down menus, and this is all done just with straight HTML and jQuery. All the HTML is shipped to this page. So if we look at the source of this, you see all of those values are sent to the page. They're not doing an AJAX to go get new values. So they're not getting a database. Right. It's just a big array of strings.
So like you have a selector and you type it in.
Yeah, right.
You can put the whole library in
You could. It'd be a huge page. All right, and then so we'll play with some of these tomorrow. I want to also show you the themes. They have this theme concept, and you can build what you want your thing to look like. All right, so they have different themes, like this is a dark theme. That's funny. It's not, that's funny. There we go, that's better. So it shows you all of the widgets and what they look like in the color schemes, what the buttons look like if you choose them, the spinners, the sliders, how we have multiple sliders, date pickers, all of that. And then they also have these icons, which are done through sprites, like the Twitter Bootstrap. Remember we talked about the sprites? This is one picture that they add on, and then they add some styling to make it look like a rounded little button. And all you have to do is apply the class to some element, and it will turn it into an icon, just like Twitter Bootstrap. Same concept. But I can make my own, changing the corner radius here and make this 20 pixels instead, and it makes them nice and round. You know, some of these don't look right. But I can change the background color of some different things, put a gradient on it, change the background color, make it a gradient, and you can see that here. And so you can change all kinds of drop shadows, all the errors. Here's some error things like Twitter Bootstrap has. So all of this you could then download. It will create you the CSS and the jQuery library to download and put into your site. So you're going to have a theme, a jQuery UI.css that you're going to have, plus your jQuery UI JavaScript that controls all of that. So you can play with that, add your own theme. I've done this before. It's pretty cool. And you could use this instead of the Twitter Bootstrap styling.
Oh, I thought that was due
No.
tomorrow.
Your next assignment after this one is to, you can take your existing website that you just did, the responsive from scratch, and you're going to add all of these cool things like accordions and tabs to your website so you know how to use them. All right, that's about it. Any questions?